off of his person.
His corpse? Is that what you were going to say?
No. He's fine later on. Okay.
Well, I think Link brings in the fairy a little bit later in the game, off screen.
Okay, we have our single arrow. We are ready to go here. Possibly once we get to the actual uncle in the sewer, he's going to give us something to shoot that arrow with. That'd be nice.
Bow would absolutely be great. It only blocks 4 items in the game before Ganon's tower, so it can be almost anywhere. It's almost as bad as the ice rod.
Indeed. What do we got? The fire rod. That's not a bad find this early. It's, I think, a little bit better than Cane of Burna. You certainly get more shots out of it, and there's magic kicking around here. So the problem, dear chat, that we're dealing with right now is that there are 3 items hiding in a cave here in the escape sequence that, unless our runners find a bomb, is not going to be accessible to them. So they're going to be popping fire rod shots as well as pots at some of these enemies with the hopes that one of them is going to turn into a lovely bomb for them to toss at this wall.
That's always the issue when you're dealing with something like the fire rod that uses a lot of magic. You only get 8 shots, plus the 4 pots you can get in the dark sewer, and you need a lot of those just to kill the enemies too. So you have to rely on pots in order to farm for bombs, and it can be really frustrating.
Fortunately, Sawneyrath has managed to find one off of one of the very early green guards. It was lucky. Unfortunately, GTG is going to have to be hunting around for another one of these for a little while.
Well, that should be good for GTG. The different enemies are in different prize pools and can have different item drops. So the green guards are the most likely he's going to be farming until he gets to the rats in the sewers. And he did just get his bomb, so both our runners are good.
Perfect. I mean, unless that bomb mysteriously disappears later on.
Yeah, ideally you're gonna walk out of here with 4 bombs to get you through Kakariko, but a minimum of 1 is at least gonna avoid the backtrack into here later. And we had definitely seen races get lost by having to make that backtrack.
Yes, indeed. Sani is out of magic. Now, fortunately, there is more magic to be had in the sewers. It's just an unfortunate situation of having to sort of go out of your way to pick up some of those pots, take out. There is at least 1 enemy left that both of our runners have to take out before they make their way out of the escape sequence. I believe they've already, I mean, obviously they've already found the small key that's in a chest here because they're hanging onto it up above. I believe in that third, or in the second blue guard room, we found the map. So everything else here is going to be items for our runners.
Absolutely. Not necessarily good items, but non-dungeon items at least. And you're right. The only enemy that they absolutely still need to kill is the key rat. And there are a couple magic pots before that point. Worst case scenario, if they need to do a saving, if they need to do a death warp or a saving quit, they do get a partial magic refill. So they always do have the ability to continue.
Yeah, it's definitely not a situation that you necessarily want to get into, though. It is a bit of a hike back through the sewers to that rat room. So we're seeing sort of the results of this, that GTG a little behind heading through escape just because he did have to kill a few more enemies looking for that bomb before he was finally able to find it.
So the room there with the ropes is an excellent place to use a fire rod shot if you don't yet have a bomb. Usually you can get at least 3 or 4 in one shot. GTG only got 1. We got 2 there. That's a little better.
So it looks like we're going to have no problem getting our 50 rupees that we are going to end up wanting on our way into Kakariko Village to purchase some bombs, because I'm not sure that the rest of this dungeon is going to give us any help with that search.
Fortunately, Sawney is able to kill the key rat with his very last fire rod shot, so he does not get locked out of further progression.
Alright, what do we got in these 3 chests? A full heart container, big 20, and a bunch of garbage. I mean, having a full heart container this early in the game is not the worst, but not the greatest either.
Yeah, Moon Pearl Hammer gloves is really what you want to see in those chests.
Yeah, something that's going to keep you away from that AGA 1 play. Although, I mean, so far, they haven't found a single thing that's pointing towards either a required AGA 1 play for Dark World access, or the required, you know, combinations of gloves and hammer that they're going to require for Dark World access. We got pretty much nothing out of that escape. It was pretty garbagey.
Yeah, the starting fire rod doesn't really give us any indication of progression being a essentially random item. Our runners will hopefully find some bombs on one of these tree pools or the bush crab. If they don't, though, they're going to have to take the inefficient route in Kakariko and actually buy them. Just magic pots there from the tier 2 tree pool.
And just single rupees from the crab. That's rude.
Yeah, we may see the tier 3 or 1 tree pool, but as it looks now, we're going to be making the walk of shame down to the bottom of Kakariko.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the case for unless there's something magical and wonderful here in the Lost Woods. I think that's going to be the case for both of our runners here.
Yes, some runners will gamble that they'll find bombs in the well or Blind's hut. And that can pay off, but if they don't, then they have to backtrack to that location. Sawney picking up a bomb from an enemy kill. Very, very convenient.
Yeah, that's going to make routing a tiny little bit better in Kakariko Village. We have the hammer in the thieves' hideout in the woods here. That's a convenient find. That's one piece of the puzzle that we need for Dark World access.
Absolutely. And we also found that one of the other tree pools was red rupees. So GTG got a leg up there on the early rupee count.
Yeah, fantastic. This also gives us a weapon that is not terrible this early in the game. You know, that doesn't have multiple uses or that requires the sort of timing that the bombs do.
Yeah, the hitbox of the hammer is always a challenge, and anybody who's made an attempt at the swordless mode knows that. But it does do tempered sword damage, and of course gives you infinite ammo. Sawney picking up a sword there in the well, though, solves that problem.
We have some convenience bombs on the bottle vendor. A bottle in the well. That sort of solves the bombs in Kakariko Village problem, although we're likely still going to have to buy a pack on our way out here.
Yeah, that's not a bad backtrack at all from the bottle vendor back to the well. Really lucky placement there for GTG.
Sonny's skipping by the bottle vendor and going straight to buy some bombs. He's going to be a little bit frustrated once he makes his way back there and finds the 3 bombs. Get a map check. Looks like Tower of Hera. I think I missed a map check on the left-hand side, but yeah, Tower of Hera is our green crystal, and then we've got, or green pendant rather. Then we've got 2 other crystals in the light world on Eastern and Desert. That means we're in the troubling situation of having 2 pendants be in the dark world. We have no idea where those are yet.
Well, early desert is definitely a possibility. If they get a glove, they'll be able to full clear it. At the moment, they can at least get in, clear out the first section, assuming it's not boots locked, and check the desert ledge items. So there might be some incentive to head over there.
Yeah, I often find that, you know, if you find a book in Kakariko Village, there's probably some indication that you should probably head over to the desert area. There might even be something on the ledge. You may not be able to full clear it, but there might be something silly like Moon Pearl in there. We're getting a ped check.
Yeah,
In.
good for the runners and good for us, but a big disappointment to chat knowing so early whether a ped is required.
Yeah, well.
I am a fan of this, though. If you get the book early, just get it out of the way.
Yeah, it's not something you want to route in later. And this is not a ped seed. We have a little piece of love, or quarter heart. Not really required to beat the game.
No, and we also saw there was a quarter heart when both of our runners made the lumberjack check. So they both know that they don't need to complete IGO 1, at least in order to pick up that one item there. Still might need it for Dark World access, but there's a lot of items remaining to check before we can make that determination.
I think, honestly, with that hammer early on, it's much more likely that we're looking at an AGA not required, at least for Dark World access. And given that we have the hammer, it's probably not AGA required at all. It's gonna be a pretty rare situation where you would have something like Moon Pearl on the pedestal, or your first glove being in Dark World. I think it's pretty unlikely at this point.
Well, that pedestal knowledge may help GTG a little bit. Right now, the only pendant that we're aware of is, of course, Hera. The players may choose to clear it simply because it's a fast dungeon and a green pendant, but GTG, knowing that it's not a ped seed, if he finds his items early, might decide just to exit that dungeon, and that'll give him a little bit of time, make that ped check pay for itself.
It's true. You get into situations where you know for a fact that the boss of a dungeon is holding, you know, a small key or a big key or some other dungeon item that you really don't need. You can kind of ignore.
So green rupee there in the library. So library is dead to us.
Yeah, we're unfortunately not getting a whole lot of are going to be required for us at all this seed. You know, Desert Palace is a required dungeon, but there's as much chance that we're never going to have to get whatever's on that torch as there is a chance that we will have to get it. So, not looking great for the boots this seed.
Yeah, there's still really no clear indication of where to head. Both runners, for lack of any better options, doing the standard South Shore route, getting the dam items, mainly Moldorm Cave, not seeing progression even here yet. After this, it's basically going to come down to a dip into an eastern dungeon that they can't complete, or a desert palace that they can't complete.
We have a Master Sword and another bottle we don't need. So Master Sword, nice in Mini Moldorm Cave, but that's about it. The next question here is, how soon do you make your way over to the desert area? Because honestly, once you have that book, doing dam and then immediately making your way over there might not be the worst idea.
Well, we might see Sawney check Ice Rod Cave. Also, one of those early locations that's kind of out of the way, but a lot of people do like to get it done. Whether we see a save and quit and head to desert after that, or check, the fake flipper area, I would probably say desert check would be a prudent choice.
Yeah, fake flipper tends to be, I would say, a worse choice until you have that Moon Pearl. It's just a lot of walking up into a particular direction for not a whole lot of value, a little bit of knowledge, and a long old hike over to Zora. Plus, neither of our runners are anywhere close to having the required coinage to actually pay off the fish man, so...
If you don't have the Moon Pearl, I think that sometimes it can have value if you just swim by Halia Island to gain that knowledge and basically stop at Hobo with a save and quit. Kind of a dead-end location, so it's a nice place to end your route. Going all the way up to Zora without the Moon Pearl, that seems like a lot of work, so I agree with you there.
It's not a bad plan. We have the bow kicking around in the back of Sahasrah's hut. That makes Eastern Palace immediately full clearable as long as our runners are fine with the dark rooms, which I'm absolutely sure they are. Especially hanging onto that fire rod.
Absolutely. Almost all runners are comfortable with at least the initial Eastern Dark Room. The second one can be challenging, but with the fire rod, it's one shot to the right or left, or two shots straight down the middle, and you have lit a torch.
So the next question is, I mean, we haven't seen Dark World at all yet, but given that we have pretty much the exact set of items required to complete Palace of Darkness, is that going to wind up being one of our pendants?
Well, hopefully it will be a pendant, because Pendant Palace of Darkness always has a lot more value than Crystal Palace of Darkness. So let's make it a pendant. Let's make it something that's all they can get to early on, so we know they're going to get the value.
To answer chat, Fire Rod does not actually complete the logic for Eastern Palace. It's the same thing for all dark rooms. All dark rooms require the lamp, at least as far as logic is concerned. That being said, the only actually difficult dark room in Eastern, the one with the two Igors in it, is completely mitigated by the fire rod. You just fire it off to the right, and suddenly you can see it everywhere in the room.
Both of them will need to pick up at least one small magic pot. I don't think that Sawney has enough for even one shot. It's kind of hard to tell.
I think that's enough for... I think that's an 8th right there. Maybe doing some interesting different strats here in hopes of finding a little bit more magic.
Yeah, unfortunately, neither player has a boomerang or a hook shot, so we can't check the stun prize yet. Always nice when the stun prize is a magic source. We are going to have to keep in mind, we will be seeing the players sequence break these dark rooms. There can be progression behind these dark rooms, but anything they find, we'll have to be aware of the fact that until they find the lamp, they are sequence breaks, and that does make understanding the flow of the logic a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, it's stuff that you have to keep in your head, right? It's saying, because eventually our runners are going to get to the point in the seed where they're looking for very specific things, like you're looking for the flippers or you're looking for the hook shot. And you have to keep in your mind exactly where those things can't be. And all of these tiny little things like darkroom logic and key logic and dungeons add up to that knowledge that you need to hunt those things down. Speaking of...
Good example being the flippers.
Speaking of, all right, so this is interesting.
So that's actually a really great example of the flippers being there. That tells you that the lamp could not be on the hobo, as an example, because the hobo is a flipper-locked location, and you needed the lamp to get there. So that's just one example of keeping things in mind. If they come down to looking for the lamp, they know there's 4 locations that they never even have to check.
Indeed. And depending on what we find here in the Light World, those flippers, honestly, are starting to make at least in my mind, Aga 1 into a little bit more of a likely play. Because until you find any sort of lift at all, flippers can be required for movement around the Dark World.
Yes, they will need the lamp for Aga 1. So once they find the lamp, which could be in a Genus cave, it could be in Desert Palace, it could be in a place they already have access to. It could be on Zora, which you can walk to without the flippers. Once they find that, that'll put the flippers back in logic. But if they don't find that, then they need to keep in mind that if they use, say, the flippers to get to Northern Dark World with the hook shot, to bypass, a glove requirement, and everything they do is still a sequence break.
We have a mirror as well. This is quite the sequence break, actually. Until we find that lamp, those are two really, really interesting items to find in the back of Eastern Palace. Huh.
So GTG not having any magic, yet choosing to use his B, and this alternate strat of putting an arrow in the Igor and then following the arrow as it moves. Always interesting to see.
Yeah, you got your little chunk of magic. Oh, missed. We have ether on the floating island. So Eastern Palace, I say floating island. That's not the floating island. That's Lake Hylia Island. Floating island's a whole different thing. We have Eastern on Lake Hylia Island. And Eastern Palace happened to give us everything that we need in order to access that Eastern Tablet. I mean, besides Dark World access, so interesting.
Absolutely, mirror is one of the best items you can find early on. It just makes your routing so much easier. It lets you route in locations like Graveyard Ledge, Key 45, Bombo's Tablet that you might otherwise have to make separate trips for later on. Of course, is a sequence broken item at this point, though, just like the ether.
Yeah. GTG in the unfortunate situation of having ran entirely out of both magic and arrows, and wound up leaving the dungeon. It is possible to kill those green Igors with the Master Sword. It's difficult, though. It's not ideal, especially in the dark.
Yeah, you can't kill what you can't find.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, he's going to be missing out on that mirror. In order to find it, it's going to be a double dip.
Knowing that he already picked up 2 of the items in that dungeon, I would be really surprised if he goes back to Eastern before he's bottlenecked. If Swamp Palace is a pendant and he doesn't need the mirror, that may be the last crystal he collects.
Well, at this point, Desert is a very, very strong play. I say it's a very, very strong play. I'm pretty sure at this point it is the only play that we have left. Because we can't go up Death Mountain. We don't have lift.
Right, we can't go to Death Mountain. It's Desert or Zora, not the area, but the NPC. So the logic does is, flute on the Desert Ledge. That opens up Death Mountain.
Yeah, there's our Death Mountain access. But unfortunately, there's our Death Mountain access for the old man and the first item inside Spectacle Rock. But for GTG, that's not going to be access to Tower of Hera and to the rest of Death Mountain. It's only going to be access so far for Sawney when he gets there. Unless the lamp winds up here.
I think that we need to find the lamp because they need both the mitts and the moon pearl in order to get functional Dark World access, and we're running out of places for them to check to pick up 2 locations. So lamp will unlock Aga.
I think honestly at this point, if we didn't see at this point, there has to be something inside Spectacle Rock, because this brings us up to Spectacle Rock, and that's the only one thing that we have available to us now.
Absolutely. They can sequence break the old man, and Sawney can, of course, get to all of East Death Mountain with his sequence broken mirror. But logically, just the inside of Spectacle Rock Cave is accessible. So once we get this flute activated, that's probably where GTG is going to go, because it doesn't really have any other options.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, unless you want to make the trip back to Eastern Palace and give it another shot, but with no magic, and you'd pick up a few more arrows along the way, but with no magic, it's a bit of a risk.
That's a really unfortunate spot for the mirror, because in addition to just making the light world backtrack, the other option a lot of people will tend to do is loop in Palace of Darkness and Eastern as a combo with, of course, the mirror, which we know GTG will not have. So Sawney has a significant navigational advantage at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. So the goose is loose. Duck is amok. We are off to Death Mountain for our one item that has to be some sort of progression. At this point, I'm thinking it's got to be... what could it possibly be? It's going to be the boots, it's going to be the hook shot, it's going to be the lamp. It's going to be one of those three things, I think.
Yeah, boots will only open up Bonk Rocks. And what was in the desert? Torch? Was it the big key?
Yeah, desert is definitely boots locked.
Yeah, without the gloves, though, that just opens up the chest, which would be the small key, and then, maybe one item on the right side. So that might not open up that much. Hookshot, with Paradox Cave, Spiral Cave, that's more items. But ultimately, I think the lamp is probably their best progression. That would give them all of the Zora area logically.
I think the hookshot would be the most interesting, because right now having that mirror is a bit of an advantage for Sony, being able to complete the entire Death Mountain series. However, if the hookshot is up here, that completely negates that. GTG is able to complete the entirety of Death Mountain without the mirror. It really depends, I guess, also what's on top of Spectacle Rock, which is just 50 rupees, so the mirror doesn't give an advantage in that regard. Yeah, there's our lamp. Okay. Yep. Logic has been restored to the world. This is really, I think, unfortunate news for GTG, because this is a trip back to Eastern. No choice here. It's a trip back to Eastern to grab that mirror, and then another trip back to Death Mountain to make the way up. Whereas in the case of Sani, he gets to head right back up Death Mountain and continue on. Take a look at what's in Tower of Hera.
Yeah, we're really gonna see what all of these East Death Mountain items are. That opens up a lot of items over there.
I believe that's 8 items over on the right-hand side. I am inclined to believe that that's where we're going to find our Moon Pearl. I suspect at this point we're either going to find a Moon Pearl, some other type of progression, or we might get really lucky and find both a Moon Pearl and a pair of gloves that will actually let us into the Dark World without having to do Aga. But with that Master Sword, I don't know. We got our tablet check. A whole 10 arrows. Okay, Sonny's going to be taking the sort of gamble here that there's something for him inside Tower of Hera. I don't feel too bad about the play, honestly. There very well might be something here. The problem is, he just found that small key, and we are at the point where, unless this is the big key, which it isn't, the continued item find in this dungeon is going to be heading downstairs.
This is what you want to see in Tower of Hera. Anytime you're forced to do the basement, that means your opponent is also going to be forced to do the basement. It removes the gamble from the equation.
It's true. It's unfortunate that this is a pendant, so it's tough to tell at this point whether or not this is going to be a required dip. I don't think it's a bad idea at all, especially when you're trying to aggressively avoid that Aga play, and there are so much that you're still looking for. Could be anywhere. Could very well be here. There's two items inside this dungeon, plus one more to be had at Sahasrahla.
I definitely think that this dungeon is very quick to complete. You know, the hammer makes the boss fight much easier, even if they didn't have the Master Sword already. With being a green pendant, absolutely, I think it's worth doing. But it is something your opponent might gamble on skipping altogether. If they do it, though, at least they both have to do it the slow way.
I think it's a safer gamble when your access to Tower of Hera is the mirror, rather than having to grab the hookshot and go all the way around to Tower of Hera. If that was the case, I would definitely 100% clear Tower of Hera probably every time this early in the game, just because you're looking for all kinds of things, and it could be anywhere, and you still don't have your Dark World access. Who knows?
Sawney just walked right off the ledge there.
That was an interesting move. Possibly was trying to set up the bomb jump, but walked a little too far over the edge there.
But yeah, I do absolutely agree with you. If Tower of Hera is not the easiest dungeon to get back to, it takes a while climbing up the mountain, so just get it done. And I think most people would probably get it done.
Yeah. Cane of Burna. That is an interesting one. That, as soon as we find that Moon Pearl, that is going to be Spike Cave access. Well, we've had a... like Chad is pointing out, we've had an almost vanilla Tower of Hera so far. You know what? If Moldorm is holding on to the Moon Pearl, I'm still going to count it.
That's close enough to vanilla. And GTG picking up his mirror, much better off with a restocked quiver and the lamp.
Yeah, as Sonny is grabbing, they're taking a fall to Moldorm here. Has Hammer out, which I think is probably the most correct. I mean, you've got the Master Sword as well, but that's going to take spins. This is the fast way to do it. It's just a little bit dangerous. You got to get a little close. Where you got Moldorm? Nope.
Not a vanilla Moon Pearl or a vanilla-ish Moon Pearl.
All right, well, Cane of Burna might be useful. There is I would say, a pretty low chance that it's going to wind up being useful to us. Also, that green pendant, turning that into Sahasrahla, might wind up being useful to us, but so far, it's looking like not a very lucrative dip in the Tower of Hera.
Yeah, even beyond logically unlocking certain locations like Spike Cave and Laser Bridge, just having an invincibility item, can make certain fights and certain encounters just a lot easier with an otherwise limited lack of safety items. So it's a nice item to find.
Yeah, I like having this going into the blind fight. So you can sort of take a few more risks inside Thieves Town. For somebody as terrible at this game as I am, it feels more comfortable being able to say at any point, okay, blind, I'm done. Let me put on this Cane of Burna and finish this.
Yeah, well, it definitely makes a phase 3 blind a lot easier. I've seen people with scores much better than both of us pull out the cane during blind fight. So don't feel bad about that.
Well, it doesn't slow the game down too much.
Yeah, Burna Ganon, on the other hand, that one is a lag fest.
Yeah, that's awful. GTG is going to be taking the same strategy here to finish this dungeon off. Going to full clear it, I think we're going to see.
Yeah, doing the Eastern double dip did cost him some time, but he's really essentially just a hair behind. Fortunately, the logic, made him go back to Eastern to pick up that mirror. Really could have been a much, much worse situation for him. Only being a few minutes behind at 36 minutes in is not a bad spot.
There's our boots and our Moon Pearl. Okay, that's interesting. We've got
Paradox
our Moon
Cave
Pearl.
pays off.
So then the question is, you gamble Aga? I don't think so. I think if you've got those boots, we're not ready to see Aga 1 yet.
Well, I think with the flute, you check the Bonk Rocks here, and then you go finish off Desert Palace.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree. I think that's the most correct choice here.
I mean, if you find a lift upgrade as one of your desert items. If not, well, then it's an Aga Seed.
I mean, the fact of the matter is you've got the flute, so your desert access
exactly.
is going to be...
You're going to be there in 5 seconds.
Now, this is an interesting move, turning in the Sahasrahla green pendant first before heading over to desert. I think at this point you might be thinking, well, maybe my opponent didn't full clear Tower of Hera, so if there's an advantage to be had here, I want it. It's only quarter heart, though.
But that does make sense. If that's your lift upgrade, it's going to make desert possible. There's nothing in desert that's going to make turning the green pendant in any easier, so might as well do that one first.
So we're hoping for a lift upgrade in here. Nothing necessarily saying that we're going to find it. A lift upgrade would be our ability to both finish this dungeon as well as to skip Aghanim entirely.
Yes, Sawney is close enough in the rupee count that if he exits out of here, it might be worth it to him to farm the 500 rupees and then check Zora before doing Aga. It might even be worth it for GTG to do that.
Yeah, he's getting pretty close to that.
Especially with the flute, your ability to warp to 8 and just take the portal up there. I think if that can potentially save you 6 minutes, it's something that you do.
I think if we don't find lift here in this dungeon, then absolutely we are looking at an Aga play. I don't think for a second that you hunt around for 26 more rupees and then go to Zora.
Well, I think we'll disagree on that one. I think that we're going to see him go to Zora. If he does, though, he's going to have to be careful. He's not farming for 26 rupees. He's farming for 136.
There it is.
There it is.
There is our lift upgrade. Okay, so Desert had a vanilla glove in it. I mean, almost vanilla. It wasn't in the big chest, but it was close enough. This gamble is going to actually pay off. I'm going to be very curious to see if GTG decides to make the same move after finding those boots. I think that you do,
I think you do as well.
Yeah, it's just those boots are a pretty good indication. You've got your access to Desert Palace, but you didn't find anything in there. Now you got the boots.
So what I was saying there before he found the gloves was, if you do farm for rubies, and Zora is going to be the last place you go, don't farm for 500, farm for 610, because if you enter the Dark World without gloves, and pot is your only option, you want to make sure you have that Kiki money.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Especially given the fact that we have exactly the item loadout that we need to complete pod.
Yeah, and the tree pulls change positions, and without gloves, and having the flippers, you can't pull a hand easily. So you have to take those things into consideration. Looks like GTG probably making the same play. Check Bong Rocks first, just because it's quick. May or may not turn the green pendant in before going to the desert, but definitely I think we'll hit the desert.
Yes, indeed.
Unfortunately, Sawney missed a couple of those fire rod shots. It's 2 shots per ammo. Falling back to arrows here.
Okay, so GTG fortunately is going to be making the same move, so not going to be any further behind because of an Aga Tower climb. We have narrowly managed to avoid Aga Tower. We still don't have access to the western, or sort of the northwestern Dark World. We're gonna need or yes, we do. I'm sorry. We can. We don't have easy access to the western Dark. We kind of have to do what Sawneyrath is doing right now, which is heading into the Lost Woods here, bonking the hammer location in here. Without a lift upgrade, without a second lift upgrade, it's kind of difficult to get around the Dark World, depending on exactly where you're starting and where you plan on going. This is an interesting gamble. We're going to see the... okay.
That's a nice layout for the 5-6 crystals, being Pod and Thieves Town, both dungeons that they can currently full clear.
Yeah, that is interesting. It is unfortunate that we have Skull Woods as one of our pendants when we were given a fire rod to start. We also, speaking of easier access around the Dark World,
we're seeing some really unfortunate situation over here on GTG side. Noped out of desert without picking up the gloves and is going to Aghanim.
I missed what the nope out of desert was about.
He picked up the big key, opened the chest and got the small key, and then mirrored out.
That's strange, I guess, because when the big key is on the torch like that, the small key has to be in the big chest.
I don't know if he forgot the items were over there or just thought that the chances of it being a glove were too low, and 43 minutes in, not having any Dark World access, it was time to take a gamble. But either way, unfortunately, that was an ill-timed decision.
Well, that is unfortunate. Without that lift upgrade, access to the Dark World is going to be very, very limited. We know that all he's got is the hammer. We know now that the hook shot is in... it was in Village of Outcasts. So he's not going to be able to get to the Western Dark World using that hook shot method either. So it's a rough situation to be in.
Yeah, he can go south with the hammer and check Hype Cave, but without the mitts, he's not going to even be able to go through Village of Outcasts to get to the north part. He'll be blocked by the lift level 2 rocks. So what worries me about GTG at the moment, though, is if he simply wants to route Desert in later, maybe he'll find lift upgrade somewhere else that he can get to, like Pod or Hype Cave. But if he forgot about those items altogether, then he may never find that lift upgrade, and that lift upgrade is absolutely required to complete the game.
It is possible. There's no reason that it can't show up in Pod.
Well, no, I meant both lift upgrades are required to complete the game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and there's no reason that other lift upgrade can't show up in Pod, which would be, like you're saying, very, very convenient for GTG. So close, too. It's going to be a triple dip into Desert Palace that we're going to see, which is not a fun situation.
And having the mirror when you defeat Aghanim also means that you have to mirror to the light world every time you save and quit if you don't want to be put up on the pyramid. Yet another inconvenience.
It's true. Plus, the enemies in the light world get just a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, those red guards come out of nowhere.
Yeah, they do. Unfortunately, having the boots to run around with mitigates that a little bit.
I love on Sawney's side when the sprites start affecting the NPC sprites as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Glow in the dark maiden there. So compass in the big chest. I think the one item left here on blind. So GTG can't head north. He can't get to Catfish or Northern Dark World without the hook shot. So it's basically Southern Dark World or Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, I think Pod's basically your big choice right now. And I have a lot of trouble with Palace of Darkness. So he's going to route in Hype Cave and sort of the Southern Dark World first. I have a problem with Palace of Darkness, which is so in the sort of theory of this game, you know, all the stuff that oh my goodness, there's our other lift upgrade. Okay,
that lucky thing we were talking about just happened. Sorry, Fantalis. So you're discussing pod theory. I was just caught off guard by the mitts.
Well, oh my goodness, that is some serious trouble now. How long is it going to be before he makes his way back to Desert?
Well, mitts do lock your progression more than most any other item. Sawney finding the ice rod there, that's also a nice find. But my concern wasn't that he chose not to go to those items, but it was that he forgot they were there. If he forgot they were there, then he may never go back to Desert.
Yeah, that's true. This might be it, though. Like, he might be like, oh, I found that lift upgrade. Let me get that Bombos tablet and head straight. No, never mind.
But what were you're talking about your theory of pod, though? I'm genuinely curious.
My theory of pod. See, here's the problem. What do you need to beat pod? You need the lamp, technically. You need the hammer. You need the bow. And you need Dark World access. And all of that stuff is going to show up at some point in the game. And so, like, we already used the bow. We used the bow to get the mirror. And we already used the hammer. We used the hammer to get Dark World access. Technically, the game gave you that Dark World access. We already used the lamp. We already used all that stuff. So
they're multi-use items.
Yeah, it's like there's nothing strongly indicating to you that there might be anything in Palace of Darkness. So it always kind of, in a situation like this, it feels like more of a bad play than everything else, which is sort of, given the fact that Sawneyrath has found the ice rod, and given how good Hype Cave was, that's even more of a strong indication. I think that's like, okay, we've got our Ice Palace access now. We've got our Swamp Palace access now. We've got everything else. You know what? We are, as I'm sort of talking here, we are a medallion away from Gome.
Well, I do disagree a little bit with the pod theory. I suppose you can make that argument if it's a pendant, but pod's one of those dungeons that typically in the search for the big key, you're going to find most of the items, given how many small keys are up front. If it's a crystal that you're going to probably have to clear anyway, might as well clear it early, and if there is progression, you'll pick it up early.
It's true. I don't know. I'm thinking here, like, because, you know, we've got our second lift upgrade, and we've got our red cane, and we've got, you know, Sawneyrath has both of the rods now, so, like, there's all sorts of places you can go with all that stuff. The hope is to maybe be able to go mode Palace of Darkness. I don't know. Maybe put it off a little. It looks possibly like what Sawneyrath's gonna do here. Head into Swamp Palace. This is an interesting play. I think if you're pseudo go moding it, it's not quite as bad as if you're gonna full clear it.
Well, that's the thing with pod, is that go mode pod is very rarely different than a full clear pod. Unless you find a small key and the big key, you know, on the right side, for example, and you know, you just walk up the Helmosaur. Swamp, on the other hand, like, that's a dungeon that you want to try to save for last.
That's true.
So GTG mirroring a little too soon there, losing Kiki.
Tiny bit too soon. I'm not sure why the mirror happened, since Eastern is already complete.
Maybe that's just a muscle memory thing. That was a double Kiki loss there.
Yeah, poor guy's pretty finicky.
He only has 36 more attempts.
Alright, there we go. So Kiki is opening this place up for us. We're going to figure out... So we are just about in no mode. One of these runners is going to have to go up to Turtle Rock and let us know exactly what the medallion requirement is for it, in order for us to know exactly what we need to complete this game. But other than that, we know where everything is. We're just waiting on some sort of a medallion.
Well, I don't think Sawney, Sawney has a choice here. He can head up to Turtle Rock. He can do Dark Death Mountain, find out what the medallion is. If he finds the medallion on Dark Death Mountain, he can go in. But either way, he's going to be making 2 climbs up there. Swamp and Ice, dungeons that you try to go mode. If he full clears these dungeons and finds the medallions on the way, then yes, there'll be full clears. It'll cost him an extra 3 or 4 minutes total, but he'll be able to save Turtle Rock for last and single dip every dungeon. So what he's doing right now is he's doing dungeons that he knows he could full clear and can have that are item dense and might give him things that he needs for the next dungeon. So I think it's very efficient.
It's a tough choice, because, like, if what they're looking for is here, then it's perfect. Full clearing is going to be exactly what we need to do. However, like, there's a chance, and it's an ever so slim chance, but it's indeed a chance. Well, no, it's not even that slim. It's a 1 in 3 chance that the medallion that we're looking for Turtle Rock is Ether, and it's just sitting there on Lake Hylia Island, and we can get it right now. So it might have been.
Hopefully, he'll pick up Ether on his way out of Swamp. Maybe at that point, with a medallion in hand, he'll decide, he wants to check Dark Death Mountain and find out, what Turtle Rock is.
I'd be willing to bet that since the game sort of unloaded all these items that we need to get to Lake Hylia Island, that it is going to wind up being Ether. It's either that or Misery Mire is going to wind up being Ether, and the actual medallion is going to be in Misery. It's one of those two things,
Well, ultimately, clearing Swamp, Pod, and Ice, it's going to give him, if not the items he needs, then he's at least going to eliminate a lot of potential items that he would have to backtrack to. So, like I said, I still think he's on a very efficient route.
Yeah, the trips up Death Mountain are the tough things. Like, you don't think much about trips up Death Mountain because you kind of have to do them anyway, but trips up Death Mountain are costly, and the more that you have to do, the costly they become. So even a trip up to try and find out, which medallion is required.
Yeah, and he can pick up, red mail, sword upgrades, silver arrows in the course of doing these clears. We saw GTG pick up, his first mail upgrade in there in Pod. So these are things that are just going to make the rest of the game easier as he goes.
Yeah, so we got some convenience items. We don't have our required access yet for Turtle Rock, as far as we know. But this is all stuff that's, having that powder. Once you get there, there's just anti-fairies everywhere. It's all stuff that's going to make the game a little bit easier. And especially if Sawneyrath winds up here in Go mode, he's probably not going to even touch the dark maze inside Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, those are definitely nice safeties to have. I mean, the blue mail, cuts your damage in half. I don't care how many hearts you have. A 50% reduction is going to make things a lot easier. And the powder is essentially almost infinite health in any of the Dark World dungeons. It's my favorite item.
Yeah, true. I will, my sort of, my cutoff point is, if it's on the torch in Ganon's Tower, do I take it or do I not take it? That's the sort of time you're spending on. At Blue Mail, if it's on the torch in Ganon's Tower, absolutely I'm going to take that. It's quarter heart? No, I'm not going to take that. But, powder? Yeah, I'll pick that up.
That's fair. So, Sawney, attempting to do the hammer strats initially, finding that menu to be a little too slow, so just doing the double master sword spins. Definitely a faster approach.
He's going to switch over to the fire rod, which if you can really aim it properly, gets you quite a few hits out of this guy. Alright, Argus is down, and I don't think we found, unless that powder leads, sorry, not the powder.
Yeah, I don't think there's any progression in Swamp.
No, not really.
The fire shield, was that in Swamp?
Ooh, GTG getting down to the wire.
Shovel was in Swamp, okay.
Okay, so Sonny's going to opt to come up here and take a look at what we have in Dark Death Mountain. Honestly, I think grabbing that Ether Medallion first might have been not a bad choice, just to prevent, well, you're gonna, no matter what, you're gonna have to come back up here anyway, so it's not the worst thing.
Well, I think if this is Ether, he's going to remember where Ether was. It's really easy to forget that island item, especially when it's a medallion. Probably, I would put money on the fact he just forgot it was there.
Yeah, especially if you see that very early on. It's just something that you miss easily.
But he can still pick up 7 items up here if he decides to route in Spike Cave as well. So you get the medallion knowledge and 7 items. If it's Ether, then we're at least in no mode.
And we are.
Anything else? We are still hunting for items.
And not only that, but if it is Ether, then we are in no mode, and so is Tommy. Depending on whether or not you remember.
And it's Quake.
Oh dear. Okay. So we are not in no mode at all. We are looking around for Quake. Could be in here. That happens enough times.
It really does. You see medallions right next. Like you'll see the Meyer medallion, a checkerboard cave, the Turtle Rock one, and Hookshot Cave. GTG picking up his hookshot. That now means that he can full clear Swamp as well. Without the mitts, one of Swamp and Thieves Town are the 2 remaining dungeons that he can full clear. So probably what he's going to do first before heading back to Desert.
Nothing on Death Mountain, although Sonny is forgetting to head to check out what's going on in Spike Cave. It's a little bit of trouble.
Yeah. Really no better time to route in Spike Cave than just then, when you're going to do a save and quit anyway. It being a terminal location there. Making this pod play, though, he's most likely going to do the full clear, not going to try to risk go mode while still looking for Quake. I will give him the red mail and the powder. That'll give him a very, very comfortable safety.
So we're stuck wondering, where on earth is that Quake medallion? It's on the pedestal. It's not... I mean, we have more dungeons that we can clear. We haven't even stepped inside Ice Palace yet. We know that it's definitely not.
Absolutely. It could be Skull Woods, I mean, it could be anywhere but Turtle Rock and Ganon's Tower. So, the entire game except those two areas.
Yeah, I think that Fire Rod hasn't really come into play yet as progression, besides the fact that we needed a weapon to get out of Ice Palace. So that may very well be what it was for in the first place. We'll see soon enough, I suppose. Both of our runners going through dungeons that we've already been through, and we already know that there's not really anything interesting in here for the full clear. Which means, in my opinion, that we have entered speculation time, which is my favorite time.
Well, let's see. Speculation time. Well, I think GTG is going to finish up Thieves Town and then make the Southern Dark World play over to Swamp. I think that he actually forgot there are items in Desert. And even if he goes back to Desert, we'll just clear the back end and pick up the crystal and still not check those 2 items until he actually becomes Myth's bottlenecked. That's a little ways off.
I hope we eventually get that check, because that lift upgrade is a very serious bottleneck, blocking off a lot of things in this game.
It is, and by no means do I want any runner to be in that situation. it seems to me like that's at least plausible.
That's true.
I don't see why. I don't see any other reason to have skipped out on those at the time. But Sawney, though, Sawney has a lot of options. Knows he can't get into Turtle Rock, so it makes sense for him just to full clear pod and full clear ice. If he finds Quake, during these full clears, then he's clearing crystal dungeons. The question is, where does he go after that? Overworld or heading Independence?
I have a sneaky suspicion that, given, like you were saying a while ago, how easy we got access to Pyramid Fairy, I don't know. I think that might be where our Quake Medallion's hiding out.
Well, I'm going to throw another thing out there for you, Fantalis. GTG gave us a pedestal check. Sawney did not.
That is true. So far, Sawney has no reason not to clear out pendant dungeons.
He could do Misery Mire, get the 2 items and the pendant, and then head up to Skullwoods with the intention of clearing it. Do a pet check. But if we see him go there in the Dark World instead of the Light World, then we'll know that he has the intention of clearing it. That's something he might spend time on.
I am deeply curious to see whether or not Meyer winds up being either medallion locked. I think that would be delicious. I don't know.
That would be fun, and that would remind him to go pick up Ether. I do believe both of the players saw Ether on Lake Hylia Island.
They did, yes, because both of them went and picked up that blue boomerang from Hobo and passed by the island on the way.
So so Sawney didn't do any of the traditional blacksmith area items. We're seeing our first bat check over here from GTG, having been the first to pick up powder, and that gives us just a 5 bomb upgrade. He's not going to be able to do any of the other blacksmith chain items without the mitts, though.
Yeah. So unfortunately, that is the end of our potential value from Palace of Darkness. Besides all those convenience items that we found in there. One of them being the powder itself, I guess. Okay, so where do you go next? I think the answer for him is Swamp, I guess?
I think he's going to Swamp. It's going to give him a crystal he needs, but no other progression, since we've already seen Sonic do a full clear there. And once he's done Swamp, he's really going to be... I'm trying to think, is there... Other than Zora, is there anything that he has access to that isn't mitts locked? Skullwoods, he can get both. He can full clear Skullwoods.
He can full clear Skullwoods.
Desert, obviously, if he remembers those items there. What else can he get to? Shovel, which I'll find here in Swamp.
Well, he knows at the very least that he can complete Desert. He's got that lift upgrade and can head into the back.
Yeah, he can get up to Catfish with the lift upgrade now.
That's true.
He might do some overworld on some of these one-offs.
I hope we don't see too much overworld.
Yeah, the sooner he remembers the desert is full clearable and there are 2 items there, sooner he'll be back on track. Nice helmet sword for Sawney there, using the 8 Master Sword slashes to finish him off. Lots of health, and red mail makes it pretty safe.
Yeah, much safer than it would be in a vanilla NMG run, where Helmasaurge King is legitimately a little bit terrifying.
Yeah, I'll admit I still go in there with a fairy in a bottle.
Yeah.
Alright, so my money's on a flute over to Ice Palace.
Yeah, we're either, I mean, we're going to get a flute to something. Possibly Mire area is an option as well. But yeah, you're right. We are popping into ice. Because, I mean, why not? Like, if you're going to do anything, go to a crystal dungeon.
Always be clearing dungeon. Oh, wait. We are both wrong. We're seeing a Zora check. Or not.
He's got the jukes on us. I am really into this can swimming animation.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I mean, we haven't seen the waterfall from either player. We saw the ledge item. We didn't see what was on Zora. So maybe he wants to brought that in with. So he has pyramid access. Maybe he'll do pyramid and then walk up and do like catfish and Zora and everything all together. Either way, it makes sense to full clear swamp, pick up these 3 items. If this is your Quake, then you're done. You just head up and finish off Turtle Rock.
Yeah, it's true. Well, the most convenient chest to find it in would be this one right here. That's actually not a bad find either, as far as Ice Palace goes.
Yeah, early small key lets you check the right side without having to loop all the way through the hookshot room, so really nice place to find that.
Yeah, I cannot complain about that at all. It also,
and Sawney here, doing the full left side swamp play, initially, committing himself to to doing a full clear here. Definitely missing a lot of items. Well, not a lot too, but from his point of view, it's still worth doing the full clear. Because in his point of view, something has to be here in swamp.
I think, honestly, if I don't have my second lift upgrade yet, I am frantically searching around for it. So left side swamp doesn't sound like a bad idea at all to me. Did we ever get our shovel check?
We had not gotten our shovel check. There have just been too many better places for Sawney to go.
That would be really, really interesting if that's where our Quake medallion winds up showing up.
Well, if he doesn't find Quake in here, then I think he'll probably do some of the overworld locations before heading into the pendant dungeons. Both of those pendant dungeons, only having 2 items, are not as good value plays as, say, heading up and doing Pyramid Fairy, Catfish Zora area, or Blacksmith's Chain. They just have more items.
That's true. Just some of that blacksmith stuff is it's a bit of a pain to route in. But
well, with the mirror and the flute, it's not too bad.
Yeah, it doesn't take you too much time.
So there's 4 items in the blacksmith's chain that he can immediately get. The smith, the chest. Oh, and there's Quake, okay. So never mind.
Never mind indeed.
So Sawney in go mode at 1 hour and 13 with only 1 dungeon left after this. And it's the one you want to save for last. So, wow.
Let it be remembered that I did call it.
What did you call?
that Quake would be an Ice Palace.
We're going to need a clip for that one, I think. I remember you calling it would be in the Pyramid Fairy.
Something like that. Listen, I was saying that fire rod would come in handy at some point. I'm counting that.
You did commit that it would be in a dungeon. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Sure. Close enough. Close enough.
It's like the vanilla moon pearl and the vanilla everything else. If it's in the same half of the game, it's close enough.
Yeah. Oh, with Rando, it may as well be. All right. So
my favorite question, we're going to go into speculation mode here, is how hard does Sawney try to find a third sword?
Yeah, that is the question here. Master Sword Silverless is not fun. It's a lot of spinning around for quite a while. Oh, never mind. All right.
Was there a sword there?
That was tempered, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
So, question answered.
So, speculation time. Is the Triforce in the next chest?
Probably. See, Ice Palace was the play. Ice Palace is always the play, right?
Always be clearing dungeons.
Always be. It's the ABC. Always be full clearing all dungeons.
Yep, ABCD. Always be clearing dungeons. That's my rule that I stole from other people, but I adopted it as my own. So, GTG picking up his ether. So he has. I don't like this particular tracker. It takes me forever to find. All right, so he does have pyramid access. So probably doing that, I guess.
Yes, indeed. So we'll finally get to figure out whether or not I was right. Is Quake Medallion on Pyramid Fairy? The answer
Maybe Bombos will be there, and then close enough will come true again.
Don't say it. That would be the worst. The one medallion that you need completely out of the way.
Well, Bombos wouldn't hurt him at all. I mean, it's not going to lead him anywhere. Out of the way.
That's true, and with no half magic, it is a little bit more convenient to have an Ice Palace.
He can't even get the Ice Palace, so
that's true.
Having a second means of clearing it isn't going to affect his routing at the moment. So I say that Sawney will check all the Laser Bridge chests, looking for. Well, no, because he found the sword. I forgot that I found the sword already.
Oh!
And there's our fourth sword. But that would be vanilla butter.
I was right about something. No, I wasn't. All right. So GTG is going to be ending this game with the butter sword, whereas Sawney's only going to have that. I say only tempered. It's not only tempered. It's great. I have the tempered sword. So it's a question of if the big key here in Turtle Rock is not in its vanilla location, then we need to find 3 small keys in chests here. Otherwise, we will need to find all 4 small keys in chests here. Not looking great so far. Hey, Catfish. What's up? Give us a cape. That'd be nice. Nope. Not even gonna take it. Whew. Bold move. There's our big key and a small key. All right, so we got our big key. We've got 2 left to find.
I'm a little disappointed in GTG. I gotta say, if you find a sword there in the pyramid, you might as well just throw in your bow just in case. You never know what you'll find.
I think that fairy forgot how to do.
Well, the fairies will fill your bottles with a random item. That's always good to know.
Okay, we have our second of 3 required small keys. So it's looking at this point very possible that we might not even have to visit the bridge.
Oh, you're getting your shovel check here.
Ooh.
And
a nice
shovel swag. Yeah.
For a grand total of 5 arrows as an upgrade package.
Just a recap for anybody who's joining us. Sawney is in his last crystal dungeon. He's in go mode. GTG is currently looking for the mitts. The mitts are on the right side of Desert Palace. He initially went in and picked up the big key, which was boots locked, but mirrored out after getting the small key in the big chest. He found the second progressive mitts in Hype Cave, but has yet to head back to Desert to check those 2 items. So that's currently what he's looking for.
I think GTG is thinking it's either in Woods or perhaps in Graveyard Ledge, or in one of my favorite spots where the lift upgrade can be, in King's Tomb, where you have to go to it through the Dark World.
Yeah, we did not see either Skullwoods or Misery Mire on Sawney's side. He skipped both of these pendants, so this is our first look of what's in Skullwoods.
Absolutely. Oh, unfortunately, we don't get to bypass Laser Bridge today. We are stuck having only found 2 keys in small chests before Laser Bridge, so that would mean that there is a small key in the vanilla big key chest, and there's another one hanging out.
So I think normally normally when you're at your 7th crystal, you just start to think, am I ahead, am I behind? I think Sawney may legitimately feel that he's ahead. Everything's lined up for him, and it hasn't been so linear that it had to.
Yeah. I think in V29, a 1:15-ish go mode has to feel pretty good. Despite the fact that he had to clear a lot of dungeons, like Mire area is completely unchecked currently. Yeah, we've just never been there. We have no idea what's in the blacksmith's route.
Absolutely, he didn't do the Graveyard Ledge, the King's Tomb. He skipped so much of the overworld, just by prioritizing crystal dungeons and those paying off for him. I think he legitimately feels that he's probably, if not even a little bit ahead.
I think so. There was some initial, when V29 came out, there was a lot of talk sort of about the meta of the logic. People were saying, the overworld has been prioritized more. And there was a lot of sort of the meta early on in Rando was go to overworld locations because they could have anything in them. But I think we're finding that, good routing always sort of triumphs over good guessing of the logic, and going to those crystal dungeons and hoping that what you need is in there usually winds up working out the best.
So, this being a speed gaming channel, do you want to do the honors?
Oh, it is a speed gaming channel. Okay, we have a little game to play in chat for you all. We are headed off to Ganon's Tower, and there are 22 locations in Ganon's Tower where the big key required to get upstairs and finish off Agate 2 can be. So get your guesses in chat to tell us which of those 22 chests you think it's going to be in. If you are somebody who has either subscribed to any of the speed gaming channels or donated at least 250 bits to any of the speed gaming channels, you'll be entered into the chance to get on the leaderboard for this little game. If you happen to be correct or the closest person to being correct, you get to live on the leaderboard for Speed Gaming 5. So, best of luck. We'll stop the timer here and start the count of how many chests it's going to be. Well, whoever said 1 or 2 is unfortunately incorrect. Luckily.
Yeah, and without a small key there, he's unable to progress on the right side, which is kind of the current meta GT, if you want to even say there is one.
Yeah, same deal with Bob's chest. Nothing there as well. For a split second, I thought he was going to go over to Mirror, take that key that he got, and head back over to right side.
I think if he does want to do that, he'll do it after checking these 4 chests.
Yeah, this is sort of another of the riskier metas here, which is doing the Dark Magician route, which pretty much just saves you being able to beat those 3. Almost said Skeletors. That's not what they are.
Stalfos, yeah. Dark Magician, man, what a guy! You know, he favors one route, and again, it's permanently named after him. That's awesome.
Permanently got a risky maneuver named after him.
And it's not even like a really complicated thing. It's go left, check the Stalfos room, go right, and then that's a maneuver.
The maneuver really is not wanting to deal with those Stalfos. You can sort of call that a maneuver.
So it's entirely possible here that Sawney finishes the game before GTG finds those mitts. And that's really unfortunate, but it's possible.
Yeah, we're getting very close. This is... I don't know what he has left besides... did he do... I missed this. Did he do King's Tomb first?
That just was King's Tomb.
Oh, there's the graveyard ledge there.
He did them both.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I totally missed that part. We are, by the way... so there were 2 and then 3. Hey, there's our Bombos medallion.
And silvers.
Hey! Easy Ganon fight, easy life. So that was 2. This one's 3, 7, 8, 12? No, 13. That we're up to currently. Bob's chest is going to be 14 for us, and Bob will be wearing his traditional costume today, as we didn't pick up the 50 rupees that were on the porch.
And piece of heart and spike cake.
We did, by the way, just as a little tidbit, as far as we know, that cane was indeed required for Laser Bridge, because we have found nothing else that would help us out with Laser Bridge. So it very well could be in one of those places that we didn't check.
Yeah, Sonic does have 2 shields, so would have only needed 1 more to be out there in Meyer or one of the locked overworld locations.
So that's number 16, I believe. Unless I've counted this wrong.
How confident are you about that?
Because that last one would have been 17, and then Tile Room would be 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 would be on the far right side. So yes, that was 16.
Juice May, do we have a second on that 16?
I mean, math is hard.
Alright, well that gives Morbus99 the victory and a moment of internet fame. Congratulations, Morbus.
Congratulations indeed. Just as a note to Sonny, if he's watching this back, I feel a little rude saying that, but you get an automatic key dash with that room if you don't touch up at all and just hit the dash button when you go through the door. You get a free key dash through the big key door up there. You don't have to cancel your dash.
All right, interesting play from GTG now. Heading back into Desert, this could be just to kill Lan Molis. But if he checks the items, he'll find, unfortunately, the mitts.
Well, he's not going. I guess he didn't open the big chest because he doesn't have the small key. So
yeah, he's just going right to the boss. So it looks like he just legitimately forgot, which is, you know, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Huh. That is indeed. Sawney is heading into the
Lambo 2 fight.
Yeah. Words are hard as well.
I give you a minute and nothing happens. So I'm just gonna take over there.
Yeah. So. The unfortunate thing about the Lanmo 2 fight is that if you do decide to stop in the room beforehand and powder that fairy, you do get the bonus of having the fairy, which is nice. Unfortunate.
Okay, all right. Keep going. You're almost there.
You get the unfortunate detriment of having the Lanmo fight being much more difficult because they basically all spawn simultaneously and are quite a bit more difficult to get with your silver arrow strats or even rod strats of any kind.
Yeah, it can be very good though if you have the butter sword. You get all three in one spin when they come out.
You know, it's funny that we're seeing the Lanmo 2 fight from Sony at essentially the same time, or a little bit delayed, that we're seeing from GTG.
Well, so he got a map there, and he just opened up his inventory and saw that he was missing the compass. Knowing that there's 2 chests on the right-hand side, that might be the reminder. He also put out the flute, though, so moment of truth for GTG.
I think, honestly, from his perspective, like... Oh, no. I was about to make a liar out of myself. I was going to say, honestly, from his perspective, it might be more correct to do Lanmo first, because you got to do Lanmo anyway, and your item on there and very well could have been the second lift upgrade.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people will, if they find the big key on the torch, they'll check the big key chest and they'll just go to Lanmo, especially if they're in go mode. As long as you come back, it's not really a time loss. But where is he headed now? I mean, does he think he forgot an item in Pod? We did see him try to mirror to Eastern earlier.
I think that must be it. You know, Palace of Darkness has so many different ways that you can route this place that it's not out of the question that you pass by something like that vanilla big key chest up there, or...
Sony just had a fantastic gauntlet, and Moldorm 2 already at Agatu. 133, very fast seed for him.
Indeed. Yeah, this is absolutely going to be in upper mid 130 range. Yeah, that's what he's remembering, is that he didn't actually open the chest that's inside the Harmless Hellway there, but the chest in the Harmless Hellway has a small key in it, so...
It can be a little confusing. That's one of the things that they did add with V29, is that chests can have their own keys locked inside themselves, and it's always confusing when that happens.
Indeed.
Now we're seeing the map stare moment of going through all the items in your head. Which places did I miss? What places did I miss? But Sony heading into Ganon has not missed anything, so just has silvers and tempered sword. Very, very fast fight.
You know, Ganon, I did actually know that you can't hum with your nose closed, and I know that because you won't shut up about it.
Yeah, I didn't know that until the first time you told me, but I do now.
You're really excited about these facts, Ganon. I'm starting to get worried about you. I love that's the probably the second best position for Ganon to be in. The best position being over the top right-hand corner where you can just get him with a few spins. But that other spot, he's got his back to the wall. You've got your back to the wall, and you can sort of just slash him while sitting in the safety inside the ring.
Yeah, with the tempered sword, it's 12 slashes or 6 spins. If you're up against one of those corners, then you'll hit him twice with each spin, so you can get all 3 done in a single cycle. And it's really, really optimal. So Sawney missing the torch glitch there, but not going to need too much magic with only 4 silver arrow shots.
Yeah, absolutely. Does have to be a little bit careful of...
Yeah, I don't know what his fairy situation is. They got a nice double there.
There is no situation in which Ganon hugs are desirable, even if you've got that red mail. To answer the question in chat, torch glitch is, so there's the 2 torches down on the bottom side there. The left-hand one goes out first, and if you relight it before the right-hand one goes out, the right-hand one just never goes out.
So Sawney crossing the bridge without falling off is our winner with an official time of 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 57 seconds. And unfortunately, GTG has decided to forfeit, so that brings our race to an end. We will try to get them both in chat.
Does indeed.
But in the meantime, get your GGs in. Sympathies for GTG as well. Definitely made a valiant attempt, clearing as much as he could. Check out both of their links there. Give them follows while we try to get them in. They're going to take a quick break. Well deserved after that.
It's just the the scene at the end there where all the sitting in the back and the king's in the front, but because one of them has to use the sprite palette of Link, and Link is just completely red. one of the maidens is just standing there looking completely red. Same thing with the chest.
The red chests there, yeah.
This game's silly.
They only have limited palettes, and a lot of things share the same palette, so some of these sprites can give you really, really odd results.
GTG informed by chat of exactly where that
chat didn't inform him to get the small key first though. Come on, guys.
Yeah. Just gotta go back and grab that big chest. Done. There we go. We've got our small key. We've got our access over to the right-hand side of the dungeon.
Joined here by Sawneyrath11. GG Sawney, that was a really enjoyable race to watch. Congratulations on your 4-2 advancement and staying on the bubble.
Thank you very much. I was not expecting to have to get a cookie to be in go mode.
Yeah, that's one of the worst go mode items you can have.
I mean, I'm just glad it was in ice. I was at the point of just going through the dungeons to see if I could find Quake to enter Turtle Rock and just finish this seed off. Fortunately, Cold Stare having Tempered was a bonus.
Yeah, that was friendly of him.
Were you prepared to do Master Sword if that didn't show up?
Yes, I bought 3 blue potions just because my Master Sword Ganon is not as good as it probably should be. But I wanted to at least be prepared for worst case scenario in case I couldn't find silvers.
Well, I think for the most part, like your decisions really worked out here. Not having to dip Skull Woods, not having to even go to the mire area, not having to do the entire cycle with blacksmiths and the purple chest and all that stuff. Everything sort of just fell into place slowly over time, which, and for the most part, they were all good choices. GG,
Yeah.
well done with the routing.
Thank you very much. I feel like I got really lucky with a lot of the choices because I was just looking at what I had and just deciding where I wanted to go from there. The only thing I somewhat regret doing was actually clearing Pendant Hera. I know it was green pendant, and at the time I was thinking there could be something useful hiding behind the green pendant, but in the end it wasn't as much of a time saver as I thought it'd be.
No. You know, it's funny though. We were saying we never did find that third shield, and we never did find that cape. So as far as we know, that Cane of Burna that was in Hera was possibly required to do Laser Bridge. Possibly not. We don't know. But
I mean, I honestly framed it, so
yeah. I mean, if you've got the boots and runners of guys' caliber finish things in 135, you kind of expect to be able to do laser skips like that. It works out fine.
So I wanted to get your thoughts, Sonny, on just your general approach to your route. What we saw is you full cleared essentially every crystal dungeon that you had access to as they showed up. You know, full clearing swamp, full clearing ice, and swamp didn't have anything, but ice was ultimately led to your go mode item. A lot of people, you know, they'll do a lot more overworld stuff, but you just went with the dungeons, and it absolutely paid off. I can't wait to see your collection count. What's your general philosophy towards that?
usually I go after the overworld items, but in this case I just kept getting more and more and more progression as I was completing the dungeons. So while I was thinking about it and playing, I pretty much just went, you know what, forget this. I'm not doing what I normally do. I'm just going to keep going with the dungeons and see exactly what I can get, and ultimately it just worked.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say we do have GTG here as well.
Yes, I'm here now.
All right, so GG's to you as well. How are you feeling about that seed?
So what happened to me was, after that little incident in the dark room in Eastern Palace, I was a little bit rattled. And so I think I just kind of went on autopilot without really thinking about what I was doing while I was in desert. And because of that, I thought I had somehow already gotten the small key and gone over to the right. And so when I came back with the boots, I just ignored it totally, because in my mind that was already marked cleared.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a little tracker stuff like that. It's a little bit difficult, especially if it's dungeon tracking. Get yourself back in there and sort of refigure that out.
Well, it's very unfortunate. You cleared everything you absolutely could. Just take a look at some of your collection rates up here on the live feed now. 149. That is a very, very low rate. You skipped both of the pendants and most of the overworld, everything that wasn't absolutely required.
Yeah, I don't think I've had a collection rate this low. This one was really good. I think the next closest collection rate I've had was 156.
So how do you feel about heading into 4-2? Going to be a lot of competition in that last round.
I feel confident, But I'm going to wait to see who I have to face to really determine how confident I feel or whether I should be extremely worried, because I know there's a lot of competition left, and I know a lot of us are going to be fighting for our tournament lives.
Absolutely. I mean, there is, we were saying there's a lot of quality talent in the 3-2 sections. It's just, it's the randomness of the Swiss stages you can get put up against. You can get two amazing matchups that wind up having to fight each other, and somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. So there's some crazy matchups here.
Well, this was a pretty straightforward seed. I do encourage you guys both to go back and watch the VOD. I hope you enjoyed it. I absolutely thank you for giving us the opportunity to restream this, and we all had a good time. You guys have any final thoughts before we wrap things up, or any other questions, Vantalis?
Just GG, GTG. That it was a good seed. It was a really good seed, and we had both been nervous beforehand about the seed, and we just happened to get a good one.
Yeah, definitely good game to you as well. I'll be looking forward to go seeing how the seed was actually meant to be done.
Well, I think your execution was very good, GTG, and it was just an unfortunate incident with the tracker. That can happen to anybody, but I think it must have been very frustrating, and you definitely played it very well. For the situation you were in. So GG's there. 3-3. I hope you stick with us for week 7.
Oh, even if I was 0-6, I'd still be playing. It's just fun to play, and I'm going to keep playing after this tournament.
Well, I'll say, 135 is competitive time, so it'll be a force to contend with in the coming week.
So, speaking of fun to play, I encourage everybody watching to give it a try for yourselves if you're not already a participant. You can just see how many races we've had this tournament. There are, with 512 people, a lot of us, this is our first tournament, and win or lose, everybody had guaranteed at least 7 matches, and it's been a real trip. It's been a real treat. So if you haven't tried it yet, hopefully you'll pick it up, and we'll see you guys in the fall tournament. Just some housekeeping here. There is another race starting on the Speed Gaming 3 channel in a few minutes. John Rossum's versus Recitador. I know I'm not saying that one right.
That's actually exciting.
Yeah, that's Speed Gaming 3 out of the 6 Speed Gaming channels and the 4 ALTTP Randomizer channels playing races throughout the rest of this tournament. There's also one in progress on ALTTP Randomizer 1. So check out either of those. Of course, give both of our runners a follow here. Links are posted again there in chat. And we would absolutely be nowhere without our excellent tracker, Dusme, and the Speed Gaming staff for doing the restream. And obviously all the Twitch fans who show up to watch this. Fantalis, it's been an absolute joy to commentate with you. It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, and you as well.
So that's it for me. I'm Tiru. Anything else? Last word to you, Fantalis. Otherwise, good night.
Nothing else from me. Go watch some more Rando, honestly.
Yeah. More Rando. Good night, everybody.
Good night.